And good afternoon. It's a sunny Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. So wherever you are in the world, it's still 2 p.m. here in Cardiff. So I'm just going to wait for a couple of minutes for the room to fill up. So really, really appreciate you joining today. So thank you. Just give it another 10, 20 seconds for people to join. The reason for the day is HIKvision have launched a 4 and 8 channel K series NVR with a built-in 4G router. So today I really just want to show you how it works, things to look out for, general overview of the unit, and then really where this can be in its best placed environment, I guess, what sort of applications could make use of this technology. So if you fit either rapid deployment like towers, units, vehicles, you need remote connection. So maybe you don't want to put it on the customer's network for some reason unknown to ourselves. You want to have it off the customer's network, but you still need the remote connection capabilities for the app, for the monitoring, health monitoring, whatever that may be, then this is a perfect fit for that. Even for a backup route. So it could be on a customer's dial-up broadband ADSL, maybe that's slow or it's inherently got some issues where it's not stable. This unit can then give you a secondary pass. It may not be your primary routing. It may be you add it twice to that, one through the LAN and one through the 4G router side. So it gives you like sort of dual connection capability. So it's got a lot of potential. Rapid deployment, like I said, most of the inquiries are getting for that rapid deployment where they don't want to fit a separate router and they want to use the all-in-one unit because it's based on the K series technology. Very, very modern interface, very, very modern hardware, all the latest bells and whistles that you need for this kind of 4 and 8 channel environment. Built-in PoE, so 4 channels got the 4, 8 channels got the 8. HDMI LAN port. So it's essentially a default K series with the capability of the 4G connection side, which is fantastic. What I will do quickly is show you the data sheet. For those of you that haven't seen this data sheet, let me just pull this data sheet up. So again, PoE, it's got the 4G wireless network, 4/8 channel input, and I do have a 16 channel I'm testing right now. H.265, HDMI and VJ independent. It's got up to 6 terabyte on the 1 SATA interface on the 4 channel. On the 8 channel, it's got 2 6 terabyte bays, so 12 terabyte in total. Smart search supports multiple VCAs. So if you put an AccuSense camera on there, you make use of the AccuSense technology that's built into the camera, and therefore the NVR benefits from that. So again, it's always the end technology that has the capabilities, and it just sends that event through to the NVR for the linkage processing. So then we've got, as you can see, up to 8 megapixel resolution because it's K series. It's got the audio output. So if you want to do an audio challenge to the site, you can connect an amp or a preamp speaker into this. Decoding format, anything more really that we need to sort of say. 16 remote connections on the 4 channel, 64 on the 8 channel, supports multiple brands. Obviously you're going to be using HIKvision, of course. Power 75 watt PoE, 50 watt PoE on the 4 channel. The SIM card is on the rear of the panel. I've got a camera set up, which I'm going to show you now. And there's the wireless standard. So if you need to know a little bit more, make sure it's compatible with what you're using. The one thing to note is they're not tied into any specific network. I'm using an O2 SIM card because that's what we're tied to on our network. It went in and worked straight away almost. Very little detail to add, but again, it's not tied. So if you want to use a different network, a different vendor, then that would be absolutely fine. You just need to know the details, which we'll run through. The alarm input output, and it's got a 48 volt DC separate power supply on the 4 channel, but it's got the kettle lead on the 8 channel. Okay, so, and actually inside the unit comes the magnetic antenna module. So let me just transfer you. So that's the spec sheet, pretty much basic K series format. SIM card is an antenna connection there. But what we will do is if I transfer you over to this little baby cam, as I call it, you can see there, that's the unit here. What we've got here is the standard K series front. Just wait for this to catch up. So standard K series front, I series, 77 I series is also the same. So there's no buttons anymore on there. It's nice and modern, fits in with that smart AV look. What you find then is if I put you around to the back, wait for this to catch up. Okay, so you've got your connection here for the antenna. You've got your PoE ports next to it. Audio outputs. And your SIM card slot is directly under the antenna there. And the rest of it is standard. So VGA, alarm input output. We've got an HIKvision camera. So I've plugged an HIKvision camera directly into port 1 on this NVR. And that was the HIKvision trigger going. So very, very simple. So just for test purposes, HIKvision camera directly plugged into port 1. But again, you can connect them over the LAN. You don't need to use the PoE. If you've got a system that brings the cameras through the LANs, you can just use that method instead. But very, very simple backplane layout there. We've already got our SIM card installed, and this is a magnetic antenna. So if you see, my hand will appear on here now. Pops off, and it's magnetic. So once camera catches up, you'll see there magnetic. So you should be able to, it's a 3-meter cable in there as well. So you can connect that up to 3 meters away to get a better signal. Maybe it's to fit outside the higher up in the tower, onto a purlin, on wherever that may be. It will enhance the detection or the connection. Yeah, sorry, the GSM connection. So let's close that down now. So spec sheet thing there. What we'll do now is go through the programming on this unit. So if we just go back to the system menu, you can see there, this is the 8 channel that we're showing you today. Essentially, the 4 channel is exactly the same. Very familiar web browser. Sorry, the VCA alarms triggering there. Very, very familiar web browser. So if you've used a HIKvision product before, the web browser is very generic across the range now. So very, very easy to navigate, very, very simplistic. So you can see that the 4G represents, this model has the 4G built-in router. Again, a couple of settings, you've got your time there, you've got your RS-45 and menu outputs. Sorry, menu outputs, you can change external device. So the LED light, if you want the LED light to come on a camera, select the camera, click save. Depending on the firmware version, like the color views will allow that external device setting, for instance. Maintenance, very, very simple upgrade. So you can upgrade the firmware, export, import, export the config. You've got your security settings, but again, we're going to leave these default. Camera management. So again, all the PoE is enabled, but technically I can turn the PoE off if I want to. If it makes it easier for me to turn the PoE off and then bring a camera through a LAN port, I can. I don't have to turn the PoE off, but you can. And then with the IP camera, you've got your list there, and they're actually online. So one camera is online, and I've got the hyperlink. A lot of people ask me how to get this hyperlink up. So again, very, very simple to do. If you want to have the hyperlink to connect to a PoE camera that's connected to this NVR, very simple to do. And the network, advanced settings, other, and then enable virtual host and click save. Once you've done that, under system, you will see the hyperlink appear. Now I can click on this hyperlink and it'll open up a new web browser directly to that camera. So it makes it very easy for me to go and set that up, that camera directly up. A lot of people will also port forward. So if you've got cameras connected to the internal PoE ports like this, if you port forward from the router 65001 to 65016 as a port group, and then you forward it to the IP address of the NVR, what you can do then is, if you're using an external static IP address on the router, like just say use 10.10.10.10, just for instance, I know that's not a real one, but you could put semicolon 65001, and that would take you straight to the setup of camera 1. So if you're off-site and you need to do firmware upgrades, or it's an ANPR camera or a camera with analytics, and you need to adjust that remotely because it's a continual fine-tuning process. Just port forward for the PoE side 65001 to 65016 as a group. Port forward it to the IP address of the NVR 192.168.0.1, for instance, and then using that like 10.10.10 semicolon 65001 would allow you to gain access to that camera directly, or any camera that you do that port forward rule for. So that's fine if you're using an external IP address. If you're using HIKconnect, really simple. What you can do is type in www.hike-connect, still do the port forwarding, / say here's Dave's house, click enter. Now, if that was online, that would take me to, I could log in there first of all, to the HIKconnect account. And then once I've done that, I'd be able to access the device in there. That will actually resolve to an IP address. So say it's on a Virgin Sky router, instead of giving you the www.hikconnect- address, it would redirect to a temporary external IP address of that router, and then you can just put semicolon 65001. So there's a little handy information. Most mobile SIMs that you're using this product don't have the option to do that port forwarding. So you'll probably find that mechanism wouldn't work on a mobile SIM connection, more for the LAN side. If I figure it out, I'll tell you. This particular SIM, I can't do any port forwarding on. I'd have to get the network provider to do it. And when I've asked, this particular SIM package doesn't support that function. So it's not possible currently. Okay, under network, very simple. So you've got your standard TCP, TCP, DDNS, PBU ports, NAT, etc. There's a new menu called wireless dial. Now, if you want to use a SIM card, always put the SIM card in the correct way and put it in before you turn the NVR on. So down power it, insert the SIM card, and then power it back up, unless you do it during the initial installation phase. What you need to do then is enable dial-in, enable the 4G network, and enable auto DNS settings. Now, tick all of them because it'll just make sure it works effectively. If you need to put a preferred DNS address in there, untick the preferred auto DNS, and then you can input the preferred DNS manually. Some SIM providers may want you to override the preferred DNS and input the auto one and put a preferred in there. The O2 SIM just picks it up off the network and works absolutely fine. So I can click refresh and it'll validate, go and get those details again. So you can see there, valid SIM card, network carrier is unknown, even though it's O2. Signal strength 4, it's registered, dial-in succeeded. There's the IP address of the SIM card. There's the subnet gateway preferred DNS. Now, this is not a fixed IP SIM. Actually, in 24 hours, if I went and refreshed it, it'd give me a new IP address because I haven't used a fixed IP SIM, or not a public fixed IP address SIM. Technically, I don't see a reason why you couldn't put a public IP fixed address SIM in there, do the port forwarding, and then not even have to use HIKconnect. You could technically use the IP address assigned to the SIM card with the port forwarding rules and probably get it that way. We do offer those public fixed IP addresses, and we also offer private fixed IP address pools. So you can have a load of these units deployed with a VPN connection using all of the units are added to this pool, because it could be an estate, it could be groups or whatever. So all of them would have a private IP address, which is fixed, and then you use the VPN to connect to all of these, or you can go one step further and go public fixed IP, but that is getting harder to obtain as the IP addresses get used up. But very simple. So just enable that. Dial parameters. Now, if you're using O2, they're the parameters that you'd want. So username is O2, password is password, mobile, and just put those details in there. If you're using a different network provider, then you'd have to get those from the network provider. You can Google it. If you just Google like Vodafone APN, it'll give you the details you need to get it online. Same with O2, but it's just a standard connection. Once you've input them and click save, you can go to dial plan. So yes, I want this active all the time. What you can do is you could say to save on the connection, or because you're going to use the LAN, or you don't want anyone to access it remotely during set hours. Currently, it's set to, I'm allowed to access this 24/7, but you can actually limit this and say only between the hours of midnight till 6 a.m. and then from 6 p.m. till midnight, but all weekend. So you can actually enable the schedule that this unit is able to be using the 4G connection. Once you're happy with that, click save. Keep alive function. So I've done this because it makes sure my SIM doesn't go to sleep. Technically, you shouldn't have to do this, but I found it keeps it more stable if you do it. So I've enabled the keep alive function, keep alive interval every 5 minutes, and I've just told it to ping the Google domain server. So you can click test, and then it's normal, and click save. So for me, it just makes sure that every 5 minutes it connects to the Google domain name server, the DNS, and just make sure it's normal, it's online. You don't have to do that, but it forces my sim to stay awake. Again, every sim provider is different, so it's up to you whether you use it or not. I just find it is more reliable with this function enabled. Message settings, so enable the SMS self-service function. So what I've done there is I've added a whitelist. So again, you can click add to add someone in, username, give them a name, enable SMS alarm, yes, and then you put the phone number in there. So I put myself in there, like you can see. Oops, sorry. Select the role first, so you can see my number and it's enabled. So again, whether you use this or not, I'll show you where this comes into play now. So yes, I've enabled it. And then data monitoring. So this is a way of you setting the thresholds or the data usage. So it's a really nice little function here. So I'm going to enable data monitoring first. You have to do that and click save. And then when you click on this data settings, click on that, and you've got package type, monthly or day package. So most people are going to go for a monthly package on their SIM card. So data package, say 10 gigabyte, and then start date is the first. But again, it could be, depends on when your bill is taken out, you put that day in. So data limit alert, disconnect an alert or only alert. So you can force it to disconnect until the first of the next month when your data allowance starts again. Most people will just say alert only. So if I put down 10 megabytes, let's put it down to 1 megabyte just to test it. So monthly package, 1 megabyte, start date is the first, but we'll put down 29, only alert, and then notification method is audible, send email, send SMS, warning value at 80%. Click save, and technically when it reaches this threshold, you've got two options. You can have it alert as an SMS, or you can, at a threshold value, or you can have it disconnect. So it stops the over data charge issue that you may see. We've all seen these horror stories where people will run thousands and thousands of pounds a month on data monitoring. The only thing I'd say with that is if you do cut it off and it's a forced cut off and it's only 3 days into the contract, you could potentially have a very long wait till it comes back to the first again before it can be re-enabled, and a very difficult conversation with the customer. But maybe that's something that you have in place with your customer as a fair use policy. Again, some SIM providers do provide a dataless or unrestricted data pool. They cost a lot of money per month. We've provided a couple in the past and they're very, very expensive. But again, if the site needs it, it must have it, and there's a real application for it, then it is something that you could explore. And then you can go back, and when you go back in it, I'll just keep refreshing it, but I haven't actually used any data. So it's down at 0% now because we've reset it. Now, if I use the data on my app, so I'll transfer to the app shortly, but I'm going to just use some data from the app a second. Just leave that connected. And then we go. So that will change now. Now I'm drawing data from it. It will slowly start to go up once it's realized that it's being drawn. But it does take a few minutes to sort of change that. What I'll do now is come back to that now. Anything else? So it's got email, platform access. We're using HIKconnect. So I've already added it to HIKconnect on my app. Very, very simple process. Even through 4G, it will connect straight away as long as you fill those dial parameters in the APN details. So I've got one camera connected. So it's the 4 megapixel HIKsense. Same functions as normal NVR. So you've got your image menus, you've got your events, basic event and smart event. What I have done, just to show you the 4G side working, under the smart event, it is an HIKsense camera. So I did a line crossing alarm, so enabled line crossing. And again, the HIKsense technology, fantastic technology. So, not only does it benefit from a great powered by Darkfighter image, it actually gives you the enhanced VCA. So for those people that are getting too many false alarms from like light changes, foliage, shadows, things like that. The HIKvision technology does help prevent that. It doesn't eliminate it. Nobody's saying, or I'm certainly not saying it's going to eliminate that, but it does help cut those false alarms down. So all I've done is simply drawn a line, A to B line, human activity and sensitivity 50%. Just to make sure triggers, just put it a little bit higher. I'm in schedule 24/7, linkage, notify surveillance center, an audible warning on the recorder. Notify surveillance center is always the app. And all we've got there is the storage. So we've got one hard drive, continue to record, as you can see there. It's got all of the other functions like hard drive detect and net hard drive, etc. So you can add in network hard drive locations, and your advanced settings, obviously make sure it's overwritten and go to sleep if you want. The VCA, that depends on the cameras that are connected to it. As you can see there, the cameras I've got here don't support the functionality, but if you had a thermal camera connected or an IDS camera, then it would give you some of the interaction with that product into the K-series NVR, and that would be set separately under the VCA menu. So what we will do quickly is go back. Let's see if the data has changed. No change yet. It will do though. Not quite seen the change yet. So what we'll do now, if I transfer you off, just so you're aware as well, because I got asked this a couple of times, I've done this webinar before. The NVR itself is connected directly to my laptop. So there's no trickery going on here. My laptop LAN port is connected directly into the LAN port of the NVR. So that's how I'm able to web browse it. My app, which I'm going to show you now, is where we do the configuration. The HIKvision. So if I just quickly go into AirPlay, start AirPlay, and I can screen share my phone with you. Okay, so. Okay, so this is the HIKvision app now. So you can see there, 4G NVR. So if I go up into the settings icon there, you can see the 4G NVR, it's online and notifications are enabled. Storage status, I can click on that and it'll give me the storage status normal. Image encryption is on, configure DNS, remote configuration. So it's all set up as I need it to be set, and then link camera is all set up here, already done. So if I start live view on this, you can see there, this is the camera, the HIKvision camera we talked about with the line crossing on there. So again, if it had audio, whatever, you can actually enable the audio, select two-way NVR, DVR audio or IP camera audio. So you've still got the function of talking to the IP camera audio output or the NVR, DVR audio output, you can take pictures, etc. What I will do quickly, if I go back to this menu here, just go back to the alarms. And now I'm going to go and trigger an alarm quickly just by walking. So give me 2 seconds. Okay, so you heard the alarm go on the NVR. You've seen the camera just come up as an alarm on there. So if I go into the notifications at the bottom here, to refresh that, you can see, there we go. So the HIKvision app has had a nice little update over the weekend as well. So you can see there's a still image of me triggering it, line crossing detection from that recorder. You've got live view or playback. So I can click on live view and it goes straight to the camera for the live view, or I can click on playback. Now, it does take a little bit of time. The only thing I would say about this 4G NVR is if you go straight into the app and try to do playback, it takes a little bit longer than a standard DVR NVR to compile the playback and get it. So if you go into the, it's there now. So that's the playback streaming over 4G to my app from the time I triggered the camera. So you'll see me walk in front of it now. And then from this, I can screenshot it and record it to my phone locally. There we go. So that is effectively the app. You can see it's really nice and simple to interact with. And again, go back to live view and all of the functionality is there. I can share it, playback, add the favorites, etc. So it's a really, really simple unit to interact with. Let me just close this down. Let's see, hasn't quite refreshed yet. So that is effectively, yeah, that's effectively all I wanted to do. So Very simple to interact with, really simple to set up, really simple to deploy. Like I said, really good for the rapid deployment market, you know, rural areas, areas with slow broadband, even as a backup for you guys. If you want to do a remote service or support the customer, I don't know, maybe you have to export the footage and they don't want you, you know, having access to their network specifically. You know, you could do it through the 4G side. So really nice, easy unit to deploy and set up. I'm just going to check if there's any questions on this. I just had a bit of a heads up. Nothing on the Q&A, but there is something on YouTube, apparently, Jake said. Give me 2 seconds. So some questions on the... Okay, so there's a problem with the audio, it sounds like, on YouTube. So apologize about that. Okay, so yeah, a few of you have commented that there's an audio issue. So there must be an issue with the link on YouTube. So hopefully, for those of you that wanted to see this, you can actually see this back on the YouTube post webinar. So that's all I really wanted to go through. Thank you very much for joining, those of you that did join around the world. Any questions, please drop them as comments or welcome to email us on webinar@dvs.co.uk, where we'll endeavour to answer any questions you have. Stay safe, stay tuned, stay subscribed, and we'll see you next week for another how-to video and webinar. Thanks all. Bye-bye.